जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय विष्णुपाद परम से परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सुत श्रीमद् चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परम से परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सुत श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री ललिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। मायपुर नवदीप धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगणरिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिविकास स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं मंगलं लंगायते गिरिमित्कृपातमं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. Welcome all devotees to the fifth session of online reading of Patropadesh Volume 1. So we'll be happy to read these books. So we're continuing to read from page number 87, 10th January 1998. I hope everybody is able to hear me properly without any hindrance. Just before continuing, I want to just confirm from devotees, yes, they are able to hear from me. Okay. 10th January 1998. Congratulations on taking up the service of manager in the temple. It is a great responsibility in Krishna's service. Please discharge it to the best of your ability in the mood of self-service and service to the devotees. One thing, these are mostly online readings, and if any devotee wants some explanation, some doubt, they can just raise their hand by clicking on the mic so that we can give access to their mic. They can speak something, they can ask their doubts, and then we can continue. It's not a problem. If at all they want to ask, they can type the question in the chat box or in the question box. Continuing, I heard that you had intimate sexual relationship with the person you have mentioned. If this is not true, please do not feel offended with me. It is only what I have heard, and I have to repeat this to you as you have asked me my advice. If it is true, or even if there is some inclination in that way, then I would agree with Prabhu that it is better to politely break off the relationship. It is just too dangerous for both of your spiritual lives. Whatever the positive part of it may be, I don't think you should take the risk of fall down, especially as so many devotees will now be looking up to you. As far as his parents are concerned, I suggest you introduce some other devotees to them and let them cultivate them. Maybe that should be done by the devotee's future wife. And if you do have this problem, the solution that Srila Prabhupada suggested is marriage. Please don't take this advice as very harsh, even though it may be difficult for you to accept it. It is offered in your best interest with the long-term view in mind. If you come to India, I will also be happy to see you. 11th January 1998. Yes, I did receive your Vyasa Puja offering, and I think that now you have received my reply to you. If not, I will state it again in brief. Thank you. Regarding your question about dilemma, I see very little point in your trying not to be attached to young men. It is the most common thing in the world. It is that which makes the world keep on running. Of course, as devotees, we are trying to get out of this world, but the reality is that most devotees will get married. Especially for women, it is recommended that they get married. The main thing is to go on about it in as sane a manner as possible. For that, it would be better to consult your local congregational group leaders and discuss this matter with them. 15th January 1998. Once, soon after Srila Prabhupada's departure, my husband was entrusted to deliver a cassette tape from India to Srila Satswarup Maharaj. On this tape were Prabhupada's pastimes from India, Indians who had contact with Prabhupada. We listened to the tape before it was delivered. One story particularly impressed me. One Indian gentleman asked Srila Prabhupada how he was always remembered Krishna. Prabhupada beckoned him close and told him to put his ear on his heart. In his heart, the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare was always repeating. a miracle. I thought I would share it because it would never made it into Srila Satswarup's books as far as I know. It didn't make it because Satsarup Maharaj was very careful not to reproduce unauthenticated and quite likely spurious stories, many of which were collected in India. It is probably best that we also don't circulate such stories. Srila Prabhupada kept everything practical and based on Shastra. He didn't fit the profile of a miracle maker. Even though many people, especially in India, expect sadhus to be like that and even make up stories to glorify sadhus who don't have a repertoire, rep, repertoire of miracles. 15 January 1998. All glories to Panchatattva, which is about to come to L Temple. Jaya, is it possible that there will be a book of questions from your disciples that you have answered? I'm thinking like that, like everything else, it will take time. In future, should I also send you the copies of your letters, or will it be already done when you reply? I intend to do it myself. It would be nice if you would make a conference on COM. Please contact your godbrother and Das about this. He is on COM and intends to do it. Are there some rules which are necessary to be very, very strict and with some others not so strict? Of course, 4 regulative principles essential, chanting 25 rounds on Ekadashi flexible. Nice. How can I take the middle path in everything I do? It requires common sense, which isn't very common but comes with advancement. Stick to the path, everything will come in due course of time. Guru Maharaj, could you please give me blessings not to fall in Maya? Blessings, yes, but your own determination and sincere desire is also required. Always try to remember why are you doing it for going to Mayapur. 15 January 1998. Please don't feel scared and blamed. The material world is a heavy place and we should feel scared of Maya. But we have to take shelter of the Vaishnavas to overcome our anathas, even if the process may be painful. I reiterate, if what I have heard was not true, then please don't take offenses. But it was, then we must deal with the problem in an appropriate way. Thank you for your Vyas Puja of 15 January 1998. Thank you for your Vyas Puja offering. You wrote, thus the more I preach, the stronger I feel. So preach, do it and be blessed. I hope to set up a conference for your disciples. Better than hoping to do it is to do it. See attached file. I'm not in a position to make any monetary contribution now. No problem. With all best wishes in your preaching endeavors. 15 January 1998. In September 1997, I have received a nice letter from you where you expressed your interest for farms. Therefore, I decided to write you again a more detailed letter about the project we are involved in here. Certainly, you will have some advice for us. In a condensed way, I would like to describe to you how this project has started at all. You have certainly heard something about the civil war in ex-Yugoslavia, where the leading nations, Croatians and Serbs, conflicted. After the war, there were some areas left uninhabited because the Serbs have escaped back to Serbia. Besides the war criminals, the refugees were mainly elderly people who are now partially coming back. The state has the appropriate legal procedure regarding the return of previous owners of the land and houses. These houses are mostly ruined, burned down and robbed, but some of them are to a certain degree adaptable for living. One of such areas is Lika Jessinica. Thus we begin the colonization. There are many problems and difficulties. The houses had no windows, no doors, no bathrooms, no furniture, no wind, water, no electricity. Even today we carry water from a nearby river. My husband and I came in the very beginning, July 1996, and made some provisory arrangements to make one room and a bathroom fit for living. Other devotees made similar arrangements because none of us have any Lakshmi. In the beginning, there were many disagreements between devotees, both personal and global, regarding general directions of development of the farm. Some of them wanted simple living, and others wanted to develop business, mass production of biofood, and still others wanted both of that. This quarrel is still going on, but in the meantime, many devotees left the farm and gave up the project. Now there is just a few of us left, living in the 4 or 5 houses. The place is often visited by gurus as a part of their tours, and they encourage the devotees to go on. SR Prabhu is very enthusiastic about the project and propagates it everywhere, inviting devotees to move to the farm. However, devotees are until now just bypassers. Nobody comes to stay. We regularly pray for new devotees to come. Gurus have given general directions for developing the farm in the sense of simple living, and some of the devotees who are currently here are still trying to make up their minds to stay or to return to the city. My husband and I have a strong desire to stay on the farm. Our inspiration is a devotee, as Das, a disciple of K.K. Prabhu. He is the only one who owns the cows given by the state to people who showed interest in breeding. His cows are called Lalita and Vishakha, and there is also a calf, Bhima. They are very beautiful. The cows give a lot of milk, as Das is nicely taking care of them. In the future, in 1 or 2 years, he wants to cultivate the land with oxen. We are medical doctors. My husband also wants, besides his job, to cultivate the land and grow vegetables, as well as to help the project financially, to host devotees and other visitors and distribute prasadam. This is a poor country with many poverty stricken families. This is our current meditation, but Krishna has his own plans, and we will submit to the will of the Supreme Controller. We are very satisfied with the life here. Previously, we have been living a hard life of students with many obligations at the university, many more or less important contacts with people outside Krishna consciousness, and too little time for bhakti yoga. Now we have considerably more time for reading and hearing the lectures and associating with devotees. We also preach a little to the village people. In the last month, S. Das has been seriously ill, and so my husband and I also taking care of him, his household, and the cows. My husband takes care of the cows, firewood, and water, and I milk the cows and cook. When S was in hospital, we have been arranging prasadam for him daily. Krishna was very merciful, engaging us in this service. The cows are so wonderful. Now we are living from social aid money, and we also sell products like marmalade and winter stock vegetables. By Krishna's mercy, there are also sufficient donations we receive. These days, we have two very respectable guests visiting us, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. A devotee has left us his deities for 15 days to take care of, and the atmosphere here is very exalted. Deities in our home, regular programs with devotees, lots of snow, and we are occupying ourselves with spiritual contents, cooking, suing for the deities. The only problem is the job we are looking for since last August. The prospects are little, although the country lacks doctors but lacks money as well. Everybody expects from us to use our diplomats in the Sankirtan mission. Some were amazed upon hearing that we are moving to the country, thinking that in the city we could contribute much more to the movement. We hope that by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we will manage to do this in the village as well, working and simultaneously preaching to the simple village people. It is still unclear what service is there waiting for us. Everything is mercy of the Lord anyway, and it will be as He desires. I hope I do not make you tired with all this data and with my long narration characteristic of women's nature. For the end, I wanted to tell you about a very important thing for my spiritual life. I have great problems because I am not humble and I have a controlling mentality, and I am afraid that is a great danger in association with devotees and especially with my husband. I am skilled in practical dealings and am therefore inclined to give smart advice to everybody. This is sometimes very emphasized. I am endeavoring, but there is no change. Your Holiness would certainly have some solution which can be applied considering my capabilities, so please help me. Thank you very much for your patience and forgive me for my imposing. I just want to tell you that devotees have presented me with a photograph of you, and I hope will not object if I keep it as the source of my spiritual inspiration. If you do object, I will send it to your disciples. Forgive me once making for taking forgive me once more for taking so much of your time, so valuable for the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. Thank you for your inspiring letter dated December 20th, 1997, which I only received 2 days ago. It is inspiring because you have realized the value of Krishna conscious farm projects, and even though you could apparently be doing much more in the city, you are determined to stay in the country and cultivate the land and spiritual life simultaneously. Thank you very very much for this decision. It is required that some, if not most, of our devotees are showing people how to live simply instead of just talking about it. It is nice that you are fetching water from the river just as in India. It is best to depend more upon nature and less government amenities. Fetching water, churning butter by hand, these are all women's jobs that will keep you fit and healthy without any extra endeavor. My husband and I have a strong desire to stay on the farm. We are very satisfied with the life there. Very, very good. I have great problems because I am not humble. Everyone has this problem to a greater or lesser extent. At least you recognize the problem, and that is the first step in overcoming it. Everything takes time. We have to be steady and sincere. Abhyasena tu kaunteya. See the Gita. A great danger in association with devotees and especially with my husband. Be careful not to alienate your husband. All your aspirations for Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious, simply living will be frustrated if you don't learn to live peacefully with your husband. The secret is that the wife has to be submissive and serve her husband in Krishna consciousness. In this regard, you should see the stories of Kardamuni and Devhuti, Shrimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, and Chavanamuni and Sukanya, Shrimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto. A photograph of you, and I hope will not object if I keep it. No objection. Okay. Rajneesh Kumar, are you there? Can you read? Continue to read from here. Rajneesh Kumar. Rajneesh Kumar. He is not hearing. Jagannath Chandra Prabhu, are you there? If you are there, then you can access the mic to read. You asked for reading yesterday. Sorry, I couldn't do that. Today you can read. Are you there? Hearing me? Hare Krishna. I don't know whether somebody is hearing from the other side or not. Oh Krishna. Just waste of time. Okay, Vivek, you can read. I given you access.
22nd January 1998. These 2 weeks I have to work again at RS Prabhu's place because he is making some conditions regarding the payment of my journey to India. Anyhow, there I had opportunity to see that household life is not so charming as it can seem. As about my realizations about small children, I find them not much different from small animals. Srimad Bhagavatam is completely right, saying that family life and children are the biggest attachment. The best thing is just to avoid all of it, but it is very hard because the senses and desires are so strong. If Krishna wills, I am supposed to land in India on February 26th, and that is my main preoccupation right now. Do you already know what your schedule for March is going to be like? I am so happy to see you in Mayapur. I hope that this journey will help me to become more serious in spiritual life and strengthen my faith in Krishna and this process. I am also praying for your blessings to see India spiritually, not materially. There is one more thing I would like to tell you. When I had really bad days at RS Prabhu's place, I used to listen to seminars on how to advance in Krishna consciousness you gave last year in Mayapur. That is the best seminar I have heard since I joined this movement. It has really kept me going on. At this moment, I'm a little bit I'm a little bit fried with everything and I came to the point that I don't trust anybody except you. I feel very deeply that you are my well-wisher and that your desire is just to bring me closer to Krishna. This helps me to open my mind to you more and more because I realize the relationship with spiritual master depends a lot on sincerity and trust of a disciple. It is strange in which ways Krishna is pushing me to open myself. If there will be some major changes about India, I will let you know. Please excuse the delay in reply. I was traveling in the area of India whose phone lines my modem couldn't negotiate. Please make sure to come to India for the Mayapur festival. It is very inspiring with many devotees from around the world and many activities to participate in. I regularly give classes during the Mayapur festival and try to make myself available to my disciples, especially those who get to see me less. All in all, it is a great transcendental boost, which it appears that you need very much at the present time. I don't trust anybody except you. I feel very deeply that you are my well wisher. Please don't think that I am your only well wisher. You should see all the devotees as your well wishers, which they certainly are. Although in the course of ordinary dealings, we may not be able to see that. Actually, this only my guru and me mentality is very neophyte. Unless a devotee develops relationships with other devotees, he cannot advance properly and will probably see so many apparent faults in other devotees, but never in himself. He will blame everybody while maintaining a show of great love for spiritual master. But his attitude is not at all pleasing to the spiritual master. Such a critical mentality sometimes turns into criticism of the spiritual master also, because the so called love was based on sentiment only and not proper understanding. On the other hand, I do appreciate your expressing your difficulties to me. Sometimes disciples hide their difficulties from their gurus and then go away blaming the guru for not helping them. I try to be straightforward with my disciples, and sometimes they might find my instructions and observations difficult to bear. But it is better to bear the weight of Guru's instructions than the crushing of material nature. This doesn't mean that you have to reveal every nonsense thought that comes in your mind. But if you are having genuine difficulties, they should be communicated to me. Anyway, keep your spirits up and don't fall into these useless mental depressions. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. That may sound simplistic, but it is the essence of all of our philosophy. 31st January 1998. I am writing to you for the first time. My name is M. My wife has contacted you several times already. My main problem is that I am sleeping too long. Since I know how much Your Holiness emphasizes proper sadhana and early rising, I decided to write you in particular. Last year, as a university student, I slept for 9 to 10 or even 11 hours a day. Now my study is over and I live on the farm. Here I find it much easier to rise early because the mode of goodness is more prominent here than in the city. We, S and I, go to sleep at about 10 p.m. and we rise at 6 a.m., which makes about 8 hours of sleeping. Many devotees I know have this problem with early rising. Many senior devotees sleep more than 6 hours a day, and I see they are making compromises and extend Srila Prabhupada's limit of 6 hours of sleeping to at least 7 hours. Last year, I complained to devotees that I could not study properly if I sleep only 7 hours, and some of them openly said that I could sleep more than 7 hours during the intensive preparations for the exams. On the last year's summer camp, I slept 6 hours daily. But later, when I was attending lectures, I was tired and inattentive, thinking, oh, if I could only sleep for another hour. So I felt I was not getting the most benefit from the lectures. Wouldn't it be better to omit Mangala Aarti and take a good sleep, being more concentrated on the lectures later in the day? Here on the farm, when S. Das was ill, we had to take care of the cows for a month. At that time, I was sleeping about 7 hours daily, and there was no problem for me to rise, for I knew I must do it because of the cows. But now it has become a problem again. My alarm clock rings at 5 or 5:30, but I rarely hear its sound, and even when I do, I continue to sleep 20 to 30 minutes more. Mostly S is the only one who gets up first, and after her toilet, she calls me. I think I should get up first. However, she is much stricter. She was very inspired by your lectures on the summer camp, and when we came back, she was very enthusiastic to rise at 4 a.m. But later we failed to maintain this, and she got very frustrated. I was saying to her how we used to sleep for 10 hours and now only 7 to 8. So it is a considerable advancement. My brother is a Sankirtan devotee, and he talks to me about the benefits of rising early. But I am not ready for this. I did not get through brahmachari life in the temple with morning programs, and I cannot feel the ecstasy like my brother. If I rise early, then I sleep at least 1 to 2 hours during the day. If I feel nice due to early rising, later in the day I become frustrated because of tiredness. 6 hours of sleeping seems an unattainable limit for me. Maybe for a short period, but too austere for the whole life. Are all devotees who sleep more than 6 hours insufficiently responsible in spiritual life? Why can I not be a devotee? Why can I not be a devotee and sleep 7 to 8 hours? I know there are no unimportant things in Krishna consciousness, and that if Prabhupada has given this instruction, it is the best for us, but I still do not have the realization of this. In 2 weeks, I must take service in the army force, and I know that it would be the best to rise 1 hour before others and chant. For I will not have any time for chanting later during the day, but I wonder how to do it. The general principle is to reduce sleeping as much as possible because it is a waste of time and puts us more and more in the mode of ignorance. Better to sleep less and serve Krishna more. In a purport in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada writes that anyone who sleeps more than 6 hours a day is influenced by the mode of ignorance. However, in the other places in his writings, Srila Prabhupada says that devotees can sleep up to 7 hours or even 8 hours. Srila Prabhupada pushed his advanced disciples to sleep less than 6 hours. But it doesn't mean that if someone sleeps more than 6 hours, he can't be a devotee. All it means is that we are influenced by the mode of ignorance, which we all have to admit anyway. Nothing should be done artificially, and we should gradually try to reduce our sleep. The best way to reduce sleep is not so much by mechanically pushing our bodies, but by becoming more and more enthusiastic to serve Krishna, by which the desire to sleep is automatically overcome. Another point is that what is required for one devotee will be different for another. Some people can get by with very little sleep, whereas others need more. If we are not able to concentrate on our sadhana or studies due to tiredness, then it indicates that we need extra sleep. It is simply a matter of common sense. However, rising early to utilize the hours of Brahma Muhurta for hearing and chanting about Krishna is very important. Here in India, which is a hot country, the tradition used to be that everyone would rise very early and engage in spiritual activities, but also take a mid afternoon nap. Another important point for controlling sleep is controlling eating. If we eat too much, or if we eat too rich foods, or if we eat at night, our need to sleep will be increased. I have heard it said that an hour of sleep before midnight is worth two afterwards. So, early resting followed by early rising is recommended. On the whole, devotees should try to reduce their eating and sleeping so as to concentrate more and more on the service of Krishna. Do not, however, be discouraged if you are not on as high a platform as you would like to be. Whatever platform we are on, we should engage in Krishna's service and gradually make advancement. This we learn from Lord Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. I hope that these thoughts are of some use to you. Below are a few more lines on the subject of anger, which which BHN has inquired about it. Bhaktin has inquired about it. To S. Anger is due to excessive attachment. It must be overcome if you want to remain living in the association of devotees. Krishna does not tolerate it if one does not attempt to control his anger in his dealings with devotees. It's the neophyte tendency to blame others for difficulties confronted, vented as anger towards them. One who is Krishna conscious will never blame someone else, but will see whatever difficulty he faces as Krishna's mercy to help him take shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. Sometime in February 1998. Congratulations on becoming a grandmother. That's what our movement needs. More grandmothers, oceans of compassion, and living shelters against the vicissitudes of material world manifested as nasty sannyasis, etc. I hope this meets you and your family members in the best of health and that you are enjoying the pleasure of bringing up a new generation of Vaishnavas in America. Sometime in February 1998. Lately, I have read your book titled Brahmacharya in Krishna Consciousness. I decided to read this book although I am not a devotee. And you write this book cannot be understood by a common man. Anyway, I risked and I think I learned some interesting things. Of course, it's impossible for me to follow principles you recommend, but anyway, it's a fine book. I have some questions for you. Christian priests also live in celibacy and they eat meat and sometimes drink wine. Not only that, they do not have so many regulations about avoiding women. Could you explain how is it possible that they can practice celibacy? Second one, I'd like to know how it is admissible that some ISKCON sannyasis are fat, decidedly overweight. I can understand that some young devotee is stout. He may have problems with controlling his tongue, but I cannot understand the fatness of swamis. Swami means master of senses. If one has problems with overeating, he should wait with sannyasa vows. I saw some swamis who are decidedly too fat. What is your opinion on that subject? What about the first text of the Nectar of Instruction? I know it's an uncomfortable question, but it disturbs my mind. I want to understand the situation because I don't want to insult anyone out of ignorance. Unfortunately, I don't have so much courage to put this question to S. Swami or any devotee from P. Yatra I know. It's easier to write to someone who is far away, so I'm writing. Third one more inconvenient question. Some sannyasis, for instance A. Goswami, B. Swami, have many girl servants. How does it correspond to the principles of sannyasa? What is your private opinion? Fourth, there is a physiological theory that when a married couple has a child, then the man and the woman are less agitated sexually. And what makes me laugh, it's a problem for many couples. In newspapers, you can read such letters. After bearing my child, I lost appetite for sex. Is something wrong? Please help me. What do the Vedas say about it? Fifth, you may treat this question as a joke, but I am really serious. What does it mean to beat the mind with a broom or to beat the mind with shoes? Of course, it's nice poetry, but what is the benefit from such advice? Sixth, this is a personal question. I think I couldn't ask it if I were a devotee. I suppose it could be treated as an offense, but anyway, it torments my mind. How do you feel being a guru? Is it a nice position? Is it a reason for becoming proud? You write that a guru should accept service of disciples for their benefit. Is it so natural and simple? Didn't you ever think, oh, I am guru, I'm really advanced devotee, I won't fall down, or I am better than all the grihastha men, let alone the karmis, I'm better. Please write about your experience, not about theory. I know the Shastra's point of view. Seventh, are you convinced that material life is no better than a ditch into which people pass stool? See page 83. Are you not? So you want to say that all the people except you and your friends are passing stools? Everything in the world is one big defecation. Yes? There is another point. All right, I agree with you. But what is the problem? Stool is also creation of Krishna. And only the senses order us to think that stool is something unpleasant. From the higher point of view, stool is as nice as flowers or halwa and so on. What do you think? You, Mr. Guru, not the Bhagavatam? That's the last question. I know the Hare Krishna movement since February 1994. I tried to become a devotee, but unfortunately I failed. There were many reasons of my falling down. Now I am studying re-socialization. I don't feel happy in life. I feel some kind of emptiness in my heart or mind from time to time. I think I'll come back to Hare Krishna, but first I must understand some things outside of ISKCON. Anyway, I respect and like devotees. All right, Hare Krishna, have a nice new devotional year. I hope you understood my letter. Please forgive me for mistakes. They are caused only by my insufficient education in English. Thank you for your appreciation of my book, Brahmacharya and Krishna Consciousness. You have written that it is impossible for you to follow the principles recommended therein. In one sense, that is true, and in another sense, untrue. Most of the members of the Krishna Consciousness movement who follow these principles are from a background similar to yours. So if they can follow the principles, there is no reason why you cannot also. The reason that you supposedly cannot is because you have not understood the purpose of life and dedicated yourselves to understanding Krishna. Unless and until you do that, following these principles will be impossible for you. You also quoted me as writing that this book cannot be understood by the common man. This principle is relevant in considering the nature of your questions which border on dangerous. They are dangerous because they call into question the behavior of advanced devotees, which is not understandable by those who are not devotees. There are higher laws at work here that non devotees cannot appreciate. One of the most important, if not the most important, transcendental principle is that Krishna, the supreme controller, does not like his devotees to be maligned or considered ordinary people. You are also a devotee because you like devotees and like to chant Hare Krishna. You are also applying your analytical intelligence to try to understand that which in your experience does not seem to tally with what the scriptures state or what would be expected of devotees. Such attempts are not to be denied. Indeed, the scriptures encourage us to use our discrimination and intelligence to make sure that those who we accept as spiritual guides are actually qualified according to the standard given by scriptures. However, overly skeptical analysis can be dangerous if it leads one to see apparent faults in those who are dear to Krishna. For instance, you have asked about ISKCON sannyasis who are decidedly overweight. You consider it to be an uncomfortable question and it disturbs your mind. I, of course, am also aware of the bodily structure of the sannyasis you have mentioned, but it has not disturbed my mind. I have hardly even noticed it. What I have noticed is their tremendous dedication to the preaching mission, in which they undergo difficulties, accept the burden of many disciples, travel, preach, and in so many other ways give themselves to others, and have been doing so for so many years. As you have mentioned, if a young devotee is stout, he may have problems controlling his tongue. But if senior devotees who are otherwise exhibiting symptoms of being highly advanced and dedicated in Krishna consciousness are overweight, I would come to the conclusion that they are not having problems in controlling their senses, but that there must be another cause for their stoutness. To tell you the truth, I never really thought about it before. But now that you have brought up to the subject, I could volunteer some explanations. According to Ayurveda or even modern medical science, there are different types of bodily constitutions. Some people by bodily constitutions have strong appetites and even if they eat little, easily put on weight, whereas others, like me, can eat all the day and will remain as skinny as a rake. So it, so it may be a question of metabolism. In regard to one of the sannyasis you have mentioned, I remember a devotee who is qualified Ayurvedic doctor telling me that according to his analysis, an operation that the sannyasi had in his childhood affected his metabolism in such a way that he very easily put on weight. Another consideration is that one of the most pleasant forms of Vaishnava exchange, which Srila Prabhupada also vigorously propagated, is the offering of prasada to devotees. Disciples especially like to prepare many nice items to offer to their guru as an offering of love. And in the spirit of loving exchange, the guru will not want to disappoint his disciples and will happily take what they offer. For those who do not have such a relationship of love, this may be difficult to understand, but my poor digestive system knows well that I have many times overloaded it, even though I would rather not have, just to please devotees who had gone so much trouble to prepare various items. There is a story of Sripada Madhvacharya, who, being an incarnation of Bhima, was well known for taking large quantities of prasada. One day he had honored a large feast when one of his disciples brought a bunch of 50 huge bananas which he had been keeping for the arrival of his guru. Madhvacharya finished them all off on the spot. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also quite portly, and if you see photos of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Srila Prabhupada from the side with their shirts off, you will also see that they had quite round bellies. Undoubtedly, the tongue should be controlled, and it is an important principle for Krishna consciousness, which should be emphasized among those eager to advance in the principles of brahmacharya. So, controlling the senses by not taking excessive prasada is an important principle in Vaishnavism. But pleasing the devotees who offer prasada by honoring it is also an important principle. Nectar of Instruction, verse 4. I would suggest that for neophyte devotees who are struggling to control their senses, the first injection is more important. Although, as Srila Prabhupada once said, his disciples are all devotees of prasadam, and we would rather expound the glories of prasadam and how it is made and kept so many devotees rather than dwell too much on self denial. So, both sides are there, and those with transcendental vision can understand this apparent contradiction. If you are not satisfied by this analysis, please go ahead and write to those who you feel are too fat. I am sure that if you present your doubt in a humble and respectful manner, they will not feel offended and may be able to give you more insight than I have. Regarding your next inconvenient question about those sannyasis who have many girl servants, I do not know what the situation is in this regard with A. Maharaja because I have not personally seen or heard about how he lives. I think that if there were any slightest hint of grounds for a rumor in this regard, it would it would have already been well circulated and exaggerated throughout the ISKCON, because unfortunately there are certain people around the fringes of our society who are very enthusiastic and expert in propagating rumors, especially about the supposed misdeeds of our leaders. Regarding B. Maharaja, I have seen how he conducts his programs and I'm a great admirer of him. It is true that he has many young lady disciples, which could maybe attributed to the glamorous style he brings to presenting Krishna consciousness to masses and also to his caring and fatherly nature, all of which are attractive to young ladies. At the same time, Maharaja is very strict about dealings between the sexes, not only in his own personal dealings, but between the members of his festival programs also. Maharaja is an experienced enough devotee and preacher to know that if dealings between members of a Krishna conscious group become sexually loose, then everything goes into pieces. No effective preaching can be done, and on the contrary, whatever preaching is done becomes spoiled by the poor reputation that becomes ascribed to the party. So I don't see any cause for concern there. On the contrary, Maharaja deserves all praise for his exemplary service. You have asked you have asked about who Christian priests also living in celibacy. How do they do it? Those who have a taste for God realization may get the mercy of God who appreciates their sincerity at the level they are on and gives them strength from within to make advancement within that situation. Unfortunately, at least in the modern age, such priests may not be many. Srila Prabhupada noted having heard a report about a hospital for alcoholic priests in America with several hundred beds. I forget the exact number just now. As soon as it was opened, every bed was taken. So it may be that the priests are suppressing their frustration in intoxication. I know that one of the reasons for my disenchantment with the Catholic Church in which I was brought up was seeing so many priests who were alcoholics, chain smokers, TV addicts, and in general talking, acting, and apparently thinking in a manner little different from ordinary people. They had little sign of the God realization that might be hoped for in a person who has supposedly dedicated his life to God. Although they may have been celibate, they were not brahmacharis in the true sense. Brahme charati iti brahmacharya of being observing God consciousness. For further analysis on this topic, please read Celibacy, Exquisite Torture or A Yes to God by Ravindra Swarupa Prabhu, published in his book Endless Love, available from BBT Bombay. You have asked what the Vedas say about a modern psychological theory about sexual agitation. I have no idea what the Vedas say about it. There are so many modern theories. The Vedas do not address every speculation that comes into the minds of deluded people. They generally reject the knowledge proffered by the conditioned souls as imperfect due to the four defects of being illusion, making mistakes, cheating others, and imperfect senses. There are devotees in our movement who have gone deeply into studies of psychology, both Vedic and modern. And I suggest if you want a more thorough answer to this question, you write and ask them. One of them is Suhotra Swami. You have asked what it means to beat the mind with a broom, as the mind is subtle and a broom gross. This is obviously allegorical. A person who is wicked and deceitful by nature, and who is
Deceitful.
deceitful by nature, and who is expert in offering arguments to delude and misguide others is not worthy of being given a hearing. He should just be beaten. When he understands that he won't be listened to you, but simply has to do what he is told, then he may start to be tamed. Of course, we don't generally recommend such treatment in ordinary life, but the allegory is there. The mind is very wicked and should not be indulged. When the mind offers various schemes for material enjoyment, we should just kick them out. Judging by the nature of your questions, I feel that this would be valuable advice to apply in your own life. You have asked how I, Mr. Guru, are you envious or uncomfortable that anyone should be a guru? Feel about being a guru. What I feel about is what I feel about it is not very important. It is my service and duty, that's all. You ask, is it a nice position? No. It is the antithesis of Vaishnavism to accept the worship from others. Therefore, a Vaishnava should not accept worship but offer it up to his own Guru, who again offers it up in the Parampara system to Krishna. What is nice is to see our spiritual master's mission being fulfilled by so many people coming to Krishna consciousness. It would not be nice if they were denied the guidance and shelter that gurus are supposed to give, as they themselves received it from their own spiritual master. I think this answers the second part of this question also. You asked me to write according to my experience and not theory, according to the Shastra's point of view. But as my life is guided by Shastra, my experience is concomitant with Shastra. You asked, you are convinced that material life is no better than a dish into which people pass stool. Yes. If you think stool is as nice as halwa, try eating some. Or do you have to come to a higher realization to do that? Thank you for wishing me a nice Gaur Purnima. The Mayapur festival this year, as usual, was transcendently hectic and blissful. More than 2,000 devotees attended. It is really a wonderful spiritual experience despite the concomitant austerities, and one that I pray to be able to take part in every year for as long as I remain in this body.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
It's exactly 9. Maybe we should stop unless and until if some devotees have some questions. I don't know why. It was a hectic, big letter, long letter. I didn't want to stop it in the middle, so that's why I had to continue. If devotees have any question, they may ask. This letter has so many points of discussion. So if anybody has something to ask, they can ask, or else we can stop here. No. Okay. Jagannath Chandra Prabhu, I gave you the access to the mic, but you are unable to speak. Read today. I don't know why. I don't know, no response. Okay. We will stop here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhibhi vaja patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. So we will continue to read from page number 108, 2nd February 1998. First time a new mobile takes lot of time. Oh, first time a new mobile takes lot of time. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. मंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सन्देभ्यो वच पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। दन्ते निधाय तृणकं पतयोर्निपत्य कृत्वा च काकुत्स्थम् एतदहं ब्रवीमि। हे साधव सकलमे विहाय दुरा चैतन्य चंद्र चरणे कृतानुराग। हरे कृष्ण।